placing a tariff on the companies that are not in this country. They're going to move into our country, and we're going to have our drugs made in the United States, so that in case of war, in case of whatever, we're not relying on China and various other countries to supply us with drugs, which is not a good idea.
A legal group on April 14th filed a lawsuit to block U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs, calling them an overreach of presidential power. The lawsuit was filed by the nonpartisan Liberty Justice Center on behalf of 5 small U.S. businesses that import goods from countries targeted by the tariffs. It challenged Trump's April 2nd Liberation Day tariffs and separate duties imposed on Chinese imports. The lawsuit asked the Court of International Trade to block the enforcement of Trump's new tariff orders. The plaintiffs include importers of wine, educational kits, and musical instruments from targeted countries. They argued that the Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the authority to impose taxes and tariffs. The group said no previous U.S. president has ever used emergency powers to justify tariff imposition like Trump. Notably, Trump invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to justify the new tariffs on trade partners. In the lawsuit, the Liberty Justice Center said the law does not give presidents the authority to impose tariffs. White House officials defended Trump's actions, saying they protect Main Street and fight unfair global trade. Trump's tariffs include a 10% duty on goods from all countries, with higher rates on those with barriers to U.S. imports. Some of those tariffs were paused for 90 days, but legal challenges against them are now intensifying. A separate lawsuit in Florida is also seeking to block Trump's tariffs on China, filed by a small business owner.
Conductor tariff that you posted on True Social today, what is the timeline for that? And I believe it was Jameson Greer said today that those will not be negotiable. Once those tariffs are in place, they're not negotiable. Is that right?
But the tariffs will be in place in the not distant future, because as you know, like we did with steel, like we did with automobiles, like we did with aluminum, which are now fully on, we'll be doing that with semiconductors, with chips, and numerous other things. And that'll take place in the very near future.
And all the things.
And what we did is we want to uncomplicate it from a lot of companies, because that's really where it should be, ideally. And we wanted to uncomplicate it from a lot of other companies, because we want to make our chips and semiconductors and other things in our country. And I will tell you, another one is pharmaceuticals, drugs and pharmaceuticals. We want to make our drugs in this country. And by placing a tariff on the companies that are not in this country, they're going to move into our country, and we're going to have our drugs made in the United States, so that in case of war, in case of whatever, we're not relying on China and various other countries to supply us with drugs, which is not a good idea. And it'll happen very fast. It'll all happen very fast.
Do you know what rate the semiconductor tariff?
I'm going to be announcing it over the next week. And by the way, our country is taking in billions and billions of dollars on those tariffs. Billions of dollars. And maybe almost as importantly, or maybe more importantly, automobile companies, steel companies and factories, and aluminum companies and factories are opening up in our country. But we're taking in billions of dollars on just those 3 categories.
Speaking of steel, can you talk about your conversations with Nippon Steel and what?
Yeah, we're talking about different things, but I think that the United States Steel, one of the great companies of the world, U.S. Steel, should remain in our country. I felt that for a long time. This was one of the greatest companies in the world for a period of time, for a long period of time. It was the single greatest company in America. And I just don't think a foreign company should control it.
Mr. President.
And you know what? They're not going to have to, because the tariffs are going to make U.S. Steel do so well.